We are in the year 2023. And George, when we filmed episode number one, I don't think we could have predicted that this is where we would be in the world right now as far as how everything looks. Now, you being in the real estate market as a realtor,
hmm
I'm in the real estate market as a real estate lawyer. When we were sitting January 2022, felt like, for the last decade or so, the good times are just going to keep on rolling. Well, the world didn't stop. It certainly paused and it's readjusting. So, in today's episode, I really want to focus on where we are in 2023 in all aspects. And I can tell you from being in the trenches, I always tell people do not believe for gospel what you hear in the media, that you need to actually talk to professionals who are in it. Because I can tell you from experience, I get interviewed for enough articles. The second they come to interview me for a topic, they already have decided what my answers are going to be. They decided which angle they want to go with it, and all the questions are steering to where they want to go. And you know what sells the best, George? Doom and gloom. People
Absolutely.
love to be scared the bejeebers out of them. That will make them tune in, but that's not always reality, and that doesn't always give hope. So today I wanted to talk to you about, let's start off first of all, in the real estate market today, sitting here in January 2023, where are things at from your perspective, and where do you see the market going this year?
So it's interesting because you mentioned the media and how they like to sell the doom and gloom. So I mean, there's evolutionary reasons for why that triggers in us so much. I mean, I'm a big fan of psychology, especially with sales psychology, and a lot of my reels that I put out are about that. But I also put out social media posts about don't believe the media myths, cut through the noise. If you want to be exceptional, you have to do the exceptional. Don't fall into groupthink. The problem is people fall into the media groupthink because the media is very good at doing that. They're a well-oiled machine to trigger our fear responses, our evolutionary responses, and the doom and gloom. The reality is you got to follow the numbers. And it's not like numbers can't lie. We've all heard about lying with statistics, but the reality is volume may be down. There may have been a decline in prices, which is primarily interest rate driven, but that's played its way through the system. And a lot of real estate has to do with mass psychology, just like stock market and anything else, right? Where you have a number of people that are consumers of a product. And when the sentiment shifts, it shifts the market for that product. But what I've seen is a soft landing in the statistics because I look at them every month. And I've actually seen a slight uptick. So we went from a hot seller, like crazy hot sellers market. We're talking like 1.3. So what that is like the speed to market, right? For the number of new listings in any given month, how many sales occurred. So if it's one out of every two, you have a balanced market. You go lower, it becomes more and more and more of a buyer's market. You go higher, it becomes more and more of a seller's market. So essentially, we're now back into the early signs of a seller's market again. So it's funny, it went seller, balanced, buyer. Now I actually saw an uptick to seller last month.
I'm not surprised by you saying that, and I am going to look into my crystal ball and try to predict why that is. And I'm going to tell you, based on my experience, at least over the past few years, we're looking at this time of year. Generally, a lot of people don't list for whatever reason. People still need to buy for whatever reason, whether they have to increase the size of their home, they have to downsize, they have to change jobs, marital situation change, kid situation change, whatever it is. And it tends to be that, there's a myth, I think, that if you're a seller, you're going to get the lowest price possible in the winter. Well, you have the least amount of competition also. So you still have these amount of buyers, not as many sellers. And it feels like that's a good position to be as a seller in that case.
As long as you have a good product and the buyer for your product, you'll always be able to sell it if you price it right. Speaking of pricing, the reality is as interest rates went up, prices went down, but it nets out pretty much the same. So the mortgage payments are pretty much the same. So what people are buying and affording hasn't really changed. The housing prices just had to come down to reflect the increased cost of borrowing. But the demand levels, the underlying demand was pretty much consistent. It's only consumer sentiment that caused these fluctuations to a certain degree. And now we're starting to see a reversion back to the long-term trend.
So you have that person that bought a year or two ago on a variable mortgage rate, and then they're sitting around the water cooler saying, "Oh wow, over the last 6 months, my mortgage payments went up by $1,000 a month. My mortgage payments went up by $500 a month." That's what people are hearing. But if they've looked at their particular situation, if they don't own a particular home and they're looking to get in the market for the first time, go and calculate out, okay, that home I was going to purchase last year versus this year, give it round numbers. If I'm spending $200,000 less now, let's say I bought a property 1.5 million, $2 million, for example, and it's gone down by 200,000. The interest rates have gone up though. Like you're saying, I'm kind of in the same boat, but it's also nice to technically have more equity in the property because you have to put in $200,000 less. And if
Mm-hmm.
rates do go down, which many are predicting are going to happen over the course, because they're not going to go up to the sky, as far as people know. And
No.
eventually, when this just inflation stops and we need to go down, people will be in a good boat again. Like it's if you look over the course of the last 15 years, everybody went variable, always did well. Now everybody's saying, "Oh, I wish I locked in the fix." Well, it's a little blip, but we don't have enough history now to say this is how it's going to be forever.
Correct. Correct. And just looking at prices is only one part of the story. Like we're filling out the story right now. I think a great example is one of my listings. It was an assignment purchase. We purchased it October of 2022. Am I getting the dates right? Sorry, 2021. And now we're back to the same price point we're about to sell at as the price we paid for it when we bought it. So the market, the prices went like this, but they've now gone back to that long-term trending, right? And that's really just interest rate driven and consumer sentiment.
And assignments is an interesting one because I do get a lot of requests on them. And whenever we've had blips, it's a lot of people that purchased new construction, paid whatever they paid, thinking they're guaranteed to make money on it. And then all of a sudden, it's time to close with the builder, and like, I can't actually close on this for a variety of reasons. My appraisal is not coming in well. I can't carry this many properties. I bought another property in the meantime. And when you want to sell under assignment, under pressure, those are when people could scoop up some pretty good deals. And I've had people that had to sell at a break even or even a loss on assignments
Mm-hmm.
just to get out of the transaction. But when people are buying in a hot property like downtown Toronto condominiums, for example, and you know if it's in a half desirable building, you're going to get easily 5 different offers on assignments usually, just because there's not that much inventory, and when they're buying under assignment, depending on what stage they're at, they may only have to give a deposit, and they may still be a year or two out till they have to get the mortgage if it's not closing right now.
Well, I think that's why a lot of people predicted a really bad crash, right? And again, we have not had a crash. We've had a soft landing, basically. And they predicted that crash because they're saying, "Whoa, look at all the new construction, all the sales that have happened." And with the 2 year window, people bought at a time. And with the change in the borrowing environment, people thought that they'd be dumping assignment sales into the market and crashing the prices, but that didn't really happen.
So what kind of leads do you tend to find right now versus a typical winter January? Are you finding it's the same amount of buyers, sellers versus the last couple of years? What type of interest are you seeing from both ends of purchases and sales?
In terms of, sorry, volume
The
of
the,
activity.
the volume, the type of buyers, types of sellers. Do you see it's anything out of the ordinary what you normally would in a January?
No, nothing really out of the ordinary. I mean, maybe the volumes are less than these unusual historical points in time that we've talked about, but generally, the way I look at it, is that the markets go up, the markets go down, economics change, the economy changes, governments change, politics change, but at the end of the day, we're the ones that control things. So I know a lot of realtors are saying, "Oh, the market sucks right now, and I'm not getting any business." I'm blessed, and I also believe that if you keep up your activities, you're going to keep going through whatever ups and downs happen. So I personally and my team have not experienced a slowdown. We're all listing, we're all doing transactions, we're all maintaining our consistency because at the end of the day, real estate still happens. It's the one thing we're pretty much guaranteed. Everybody always needs a place to live, right? It's one of the most
100%.
original products in the world. People
And
needed a roof over their heads.